Welcome to our video on lockouts, a term you may have heard in the context of labor disputes or workplace conflicts. But what exactly is a lockout? In this video, we'll break down the meaning of a lockout, explore the circumstances under which it occurs, and discuss when it crosses the line into illegality. Whether you're an employee, employer, or just curious about labor laws, understanding lockouts is crucial for navigating workplace rights and responsibilities. Let's start by defining what a lockout is and why it matters in the world of employment relations. A lockout occurs when an employer temporarily prevents employees from entering the workplace. This action is usually taken during a labor dispute, such as contract negotiations or strikes. Unlike a strike, which is initiated by workers, a lockout is initiated by the employer. The goal is often to pressure employees into accepting certain terms or to prevent disruptions that could arise from ongoing negotiations. Lockouts can have significant impacts on both workers and businesses, making it important to understand their legal and practical implications. It's important to distinguish between a lockout and a strike. In a strike, employees refuse to work as a form of protest, typically over wages, benefits, or working conditions. In contrast, a lockout is when the employer denies employees access to the workplace, often to gain leverage in negotiations. Both actions disrupt normal business operations, but the initiator and legal consequences can differ significantly. Understanding this distinction helps clarify the rights and responsibilities of both parties during labor disputes. Employers may use lockouts as a strategic tool during collective bargaining or labor disputes. By locking out employees, employers can attempt to pressure unions into accepting contract terms or to prevent a sudden strike that could disrupt operations. Sometimes, employers use lockouts to maintain control over the timing and conditions of a work stoppage. However, this tactic can also escalate tensions and prolong disputes, affecting productivity and employee morale. The legality of lockouts is governed by labor laws, which vary by country and region. In the United States, for example, the National Labor Relations Act, NLRA, outlines when lockouts are permitted and when they are not. Generally, lockouts are legal if they are used as part of a legitimate bargaining process and not as a means to punish or discriminate against employees. However, there are strict rules and procedures that employers must follow to ensure the lockout is lawful. There are different types of lockouts, including defensive and offensive lockouts. A defensive lockout is used to protect the business from potential harm, such as a threatened strike. An offensive lockout, on the other hand, is used to force employees to accept certain terms. The distinction between these types can influence how courts and labor boards view the legality of the lockout and whether employees are entitled to certain protections or benefits during the work stoppage. A defensive lockout is typically implemented when an employer believes a strike is imminent or when there is a credible threat to business operations. The goal is to protect the company from sudden work stoppages that could cause financial or operational harm. Defensive lockouts are generally viewed more favorably by courts, as they are seen as a protective measure rather than an aggressive tactic. However, employers must still comply with all legal requirements to ensure the lockout is justified. Offensive lockouts occur when employers initiate a lockout to pressure employees or unions into accepting specific contract terms. This type of lockout is more controversial and can be subject to greater legal scrutiny. Courts may examine whether the employer's actions were intended to undermine collective bargaining rights or to retaliate against employees. Offensive lockouts can sometimes be deemed illegal if they violate labor laws or are used as a form of punishment. For a lockout to be legal, employers must adhere to specific legal requirements. These may include providing advance notice to employees, engaging in good faith bargaining, and ensuring that the lockout is not discriminatory. Employers must also avoid violating any existing collective bargaining agreements. Failure to meet these requirements can result in the lockout being declared illegal, with potential penalties for the employer. Collective bargaining is the process by which employers and unions negotiate terms of employment. Lockouts often occur during these negotiations, especially when talks break down. The law requires both parties to bargain in good faith, meaning they must make genuine efforts to reach an agreement. If an employer uses a lockout to avoid bargaining or to undermine the union, the lockout may be considered illegal. Employers are often required to provide advance notice before initiating a lockout. The specific notice period may vary depending on local laws and the terms of any collective bargaining agreement. Notice allows employees and unions to prepare for the work stoppage and to seek legal remedies if they believe the lockout is unjustified. Failure to provide proper notice can be grounds for declaring the lockout illegal. Good faith bargaining is a legal requirement for both employers and unions. This means both sides must participate honestly and openly in negotiations with the intent to reach an agreement. If an employer uses a lockout as a tactic to avoid meaningful bargaining or to force employees into unfair terms, the lockout may be found illegal. Courts will look at the overall conduct of both parties to determine if good faith was present. Lockouts must not be used as a tool for discrimination or retaliation against employees. For example, it is illegal for an employer to lock out only union members, or to target specific employees for participating in union activities. Such actions violate labor laws and can result in serious legal consequences for the employer. Ensuring fairness and equal treatment is a key aspect of lawful lockouts. Many workplaces operate under collective bargaining agreements, which set out the terms and conditions of employment. These agreements often include provisions regarding lockouts, such as notice requirements, dispute resolution procedures, and limitations on when lockouts can occur. Violating these provisions can render a lockout illegal and expose the employer to legal action. A legal lockout might occur when an employer and union reach an impasse in negotiations and the employer follows all required procedures, including providing notice and bargaining in good faith. For instance, if a union threatens to strike and the employer locks out workers to protect operations and does so in compliance with the law, the lockout is likely to be upheld as legal. These cases demonstrate the importance of following proper protocols. An illegal lockout might occur if an employer locks out only union members, fails to provide required notice, or uses the lockout to punish employees for union activity. Courts have consistently ruled against employers who use lockouts as a form of discrimination or retaliation. In such cases, employees may be entitled to back pay, reinstatement, or other remedies under labor law. When a lockout is found to be illegal, employees have several remedies available. These may include reinstatement to their jobs, back pay for lost wages, and compensation for any damages suffered. Labor boards or courts may also order the employer to cease the illegal conduct and to negotiate in good faith. These remedies are designed to protect workers' rights and to deter employers from violating labor laws. Labor boards and commissions play a key role in resolving disputes over lockouts. They investigate complaints, hold hearings, and issue decisions on whether a lockout was legal or illegal. These agencies ensure that both employers and employees follow the law and that workers' rights are protected. Their decisions can have significant consequences for both parties involved in a labor dispute. Courts may become involved in lockout disputes when legal action is taken by employees or unions. Judges review the facts of the case, interpret relevant laws, and determine whether the lockout was justified. Court rulings can set important precedents for future labor disputes and clarify the legal boundaries of employer and employee actions during a lockout. Lockout laws and practices vary widely around the world. In some countries, lockouts are heavily regulated or even prohibited, while in others, employers have broad discretion to use lockouts during labor disputes. Understanding the legal framework in your country is essential for both employers and employees. International labor organizations also provide guidance on best practices and workers' rights. In the United States, lockouts are governed by the National Labor Relations Act, NLRA. The law allows employers to use lockouts under certain conditions, but prohibits their use for discriminatory or retaliatory purposes. The National Labor Relations Board, NLRB, is responsible for investigating lockout disputes and enforcing labor laws. U.S. courts have developed a body of case law that further defines when lockouts are legal or illegal. Canadian labor law also regulates lockouts, with each province having its own rules and procedures. Generally, lockouts are permitted only after collective bargaining has reached an impasse and certain notice requirements have been met. Labor relations boards in each province oversee disputes and ensure compliance with the law. Canadian courts have also addressed the legality of lockouts in various landmark cases. European countries have a wide range of approaches to lockouts. In some nations, such as Germany and France, lockouts are subject to strict legal controls and may be limited to certain industries or circumstances. In others, lockouts are rare or even prohibited. European labor law emphasizes the importance of social dialogue and collective bargaining, with lockouts seen as a last resort. Australian labor law permits lockouts under specific conditions, usually after collective bargaining has failed and required procedures are followed. The Fair Work Commission oversees disputes and ensures that lockouts are not used for unlawful purposes. Australian courts have clarified the circumstances under which lockouts are legal, focusing on the need for good faith bargaining and adherence to statutory requirements. Lockouts can have a significant impact on employees, including loss of income, uncertainty about job security, and emotional stress. During a lockout, workers may be unable to access their workplace or perform their duties. Some may be eligible for unemployment benefits, depending on local laws. Understanding your rights and available resources is essential if you are affected by a lockout. Employers also face challenges during a lockout, such as lost productivity, damage to reputation, and potential legal costs. Lockouts can strain relationships with employees and unions, making future negotiations more difficult. Employers must weigh the potential benefits of a lockout against these risks and ensure that any action taken complies with the law. Unions may respond to lockouts with various strategies, such as organizing pickets, seeking legal remedies, or negotiating alternative agreements. The goal is often to protect members' interests and to pressure employers to resolve the dispute. Unions may also provide financial support or resources to affected workers during a lockout. Employers may use a range of strategies during a lockout, such as hiring temporary replacement workers, maintaining essential operations, or engaging in public relations campaigns. These actions are intended to minimize the impact of the lockout and to maintain business continuity. However, employers must ensure that their strategies do not violate labor laws or collective agreements. Negotiations often continue during a lockout, with both sides seeking to resolve the dispute and return to normal operations. Mediation or arbitration may be used to help reach an agreement. Successful negotiation requires compromise, clear communication, and a willingness to address the concerns of both parties. A lockout typically ends when the parties reach a new agreement or when legal intervention occurs. The terms of the settlement may include changes to wages, benefits, or working conditions. Once the lockout is over, employees usually return to work under the new agreement, and normal business operations resume. After a lockout ends, employees typically return to their jobs under the terms of the new agreement. Employers must reinstate workers without discrimination or retaliation. In some cases, disputes may arise over back pay or changes to job assignments, which may require further negotiation or legal resolution. Lockouts can have long-term effects on workplace relationships, employee morale, and company reputation. Even after a settlement is reached, lingering resentment or mistrust may affect productivity and future negotiations. Both employers and employees should work to rebuild trust and foster a positive working environment after a lockout. Preventing lockouts requires proactive communication, effective negotiation, and a commitment to resolving disputes amicably. Employers and unions should work together to address concerns before they escalate into major conflicts. Early intervention, mediation, and open dialogue can help prevent the need for lockouts and promote a healthier workplace. There are several alternatives to lockouts, including mediation, arbitration, and interest-based bargaining. These approaches focus on finding mutually acceptable solutions without resorting to work stoppages. By exploring alternatives, employers and unions can avoid the negative consequences of lockouts and maintain productive relationships. Mediation involves a neutral third party who helps employers and unions resolve their differences. The mediator facilitates communication, identifies common ground, and assists in developing creative solutions. Mediation is often faster and less adversarial than litigation, making it a valuable tool for resolving labor disputes without resorting to lockouts. Arbitration is another alternative to lockouts, where a neutral arbitrator hears both sides and makes a binding decision. This process is more formal than mediation, but can provide a quicker resolution than court proceedings. Arbitration helps ensure that disputes are resolved fairly and efficiently, reducing the need for disruptive lockouts. Interest-based bargaining focuses on the underlying interests of both parties, rather than fixed positions. This collaborative approach encourages problem-solving and creative solutions, making it less likely that disputes will escalate to lockouts. By understanding each other's needs, employers and unions can build stronger, more cooperative relationships. Effective communication is essential for preventing and resolving labor disputes. Employers and unions should maintain open lines of communication, share information transparently, and address concerns promptly. Good communication can help build trust, prevent misunderstandings, and reduce the likelihood of lockouts. Employees have important rights during a lockout, including the right to seek legal remedies, to receive information about the dispute, and, in some cases, to receive unemployment benefits. Understanding these rights can help workers protect themselves and make informed decisions during a lockout. Employers have legal obligations during a lockout, such as providing required notice, bargaining in good faith, and avoiding discrimination. Failing to meet these obligations can result in legal penalties and damage to the employer's reputation. Employers should consult legal counsel to ensure compliance with all applicable laws and agreements. Recent years have seen several high-profile lockout cases in various industries, from manufacturing to education. These cases highlight the complex legal and practical issues involved in lockouts, as well as the importance of following proper procedures. Studying recent cases can provide valuable lessons for both employers and employees. Lockouts are complex events that require careful planning, legal compliance, and effective communication. Both employers and employees can learn from past disputes by understanding what worked, what didn't, and how to avoid similar problems in the future. Continuous education and training, can help prevent lockouts and promote better labor relations. To sum up, lockouts are employer-initiated work stoppages that play a significant role in labor relations. Their legality depends on strict adherence to labor laws, collective agreements, and fair treatment of employees. Understanding the legal framework and best practices can help both employers and employees navigate these challenging situations more effectively. If you're facing a lockout or want to learn more, there are many resources available. Labor boards, legal aid organizations, and union representatives can provide guidance and support. Staying informed and seeking professional advice can help you protect your rights and make the best decisions during a lockout. Thank you for watching our comprehensive guide to lockouts and their legal implications. Understanding what a lockout is, when it's legal or illegal, and how to respond can make a significant difference in protecting your rights and interests. Remember, knowledge is power. Stay informed and proactive in all your workplace dealings.